Hi, this paper is called Signs of the Time, Making AI Legible, and it's a research through design project exploring what it might mean to try and make the increasingly ubiquitous AI systems that we all use daily, what it might mean to make them more legible in the way we use them. I'm Joseph Lindley, and starting in November I'll be launching the Design Research Works, a 4-year fellowship exploring the next generation of design research relating to technology and society. My co-authors, Hedda and Fran, are researchers linked with Petrus, the UK's National Centre for Excellence around the Internet of Things, and the team is gallantly led by Professor Paul Coulton, Chair in Speculative and Game Design. We're all based at Imagination Lancaster, a design-led research lab in the north of the UK. I'm going to start with a film that presents the foundation of this work, so without further ado, enjoy. Welcome, and thanks for taking the time to view our presentation. This paper is about artificial intelligence, legibility, design, and research. AI is a metaphor. It's a metaphor for humanity's ancient desire to imitate and create life. While our attempts to imitate the wonder of intelligence have failed, through those failures, AI's metaphor has grown to represent many more ideas, including robotics, expert systems, talking donkeys, neural networks, predictions, modelling, data science, machine learning, deep learning. But we live among the two sides of AI's definitional dualism. By this we mean that AI is science fiction. AI is Chappie, Skynet, HAL, or AI, robot. AI is the singularity, superintelligence. AI is forever a possibility, but it's never a reality. But on the other side, AI is a reality. AI is mundane. AI is everywhere, and it's really very real. It's Facebook, it's Google, it's your phone, it's in your house. AI is unavoidable. This everyday AI feeds off data which we leave around us, electronic traces of our lives and our interactions. The first step in making AI legible is to understand this dualism. AI is a grand dream and ubiquitous reality all at the same time. Accepting and apprehending these simultaneous truths is our foundation. But what else is there to say about AI and legibility? What would it mean for the AI in my camera, my speaker, or my car to be legible? And do we even care? Well, we do care. Almost daily there is a new ethical, responsible, just, accountable, trustworthy, private, reliable framework or guideline, rulebook or checklist, system, configuration, architecture or policy or standard for AI. And each one is a reflection of the fact that we care. But for these to work, legibility is key. To see what is right, first we must see. And we see signs and symbols everywhere. They're a staple of our world. Stop, go, don't, do, love, hate. Each one communicates to us. It makes things that might not be, but need to be, legible. In computing, these icons are commonplace forms. They quickly tell us what we need to know. So, what would or could or should icons for AI look like? What might we learn by trying to create them? And what are the right questions to ask, explore, reframe, and research? The crux of research through design is to create something, and through the process, to learn. In the case of the socio-technical challenges around AI, research through design is a particularly useful approach because it allows us to reflect the aforementioned proliferation of guidance and frameworks for responsible, understandable, or ethical AI. It allows us to incorporate ideological and technical elements alike, and it allows us to do this while tangibly moving the conversation forward through a material engagement with the issues. In the sea of complexity arising from the relationship between AI, data, and people, design research has the unique ability to materialize new meaning and ways of looking. As we began the design process, it became evident that AI's dualism is reflected in the prevailing imagery. brains, neurons and visions of inanimate machines, combined with the fleshiness of humans, dominate the space. So we thought about this. Elsewhere we considered how famous marks convey meaning symbolically. Safety, security, quality, good value, or with good values. So our designs began to take shape in 3 different ways: pictorials, brands, and abstract symbols. To these styles we explored how 6 concepts, each one a factor of an AI system's legibility, may be communicated. Processing location, scope of learning, training data provenance, training data type, and how much work am I contributing to the system simply by using it, an idea we termed intrinsic labour. AI processing takes place on board. AI processing takes place in the cloud. The AI is static, no learning through use. The AI learns continually through use. Proprietary training data unknown, open training data, photographic, positioning, audio, and biometric training data. Our explorations led us to test the prototypes in situ, in combination, and across different styles. These designs are not ends, but they're means. They're means to find, ask, and illuminate the relevant questions. Subsequently, we expanded on the prototypes through evaluative workshops, deeper design fictions, and refining which AI attributes are relevant in different contexts. The next trick is to extend the border of our magic circle, the realm of the designs, fiction, and the research, and to encompass real contexts, people, data, and consequences. The work continues. AI has become part of the fabric of our world. It's canny and uncanny all at the same time. The race to discover, disseminate, and dissect what is acceptable AI is on. This work's a manifesto for design researchers' role in that race. And with that said, if we look beyond the facade of AI's definitional dualism and the buzz of AI's own hype, then this is really about how design can help mediate between technology and society. Thank you very much for listening. We invite comment or critique and hope you enjoy the paper. So, to quickly recap, this project's about the legibility of AI iconography. And we took inspiration from the mundane, for example, from washing information symbols. We're seeking a sweet spot of legibility in between something that's too simple and something that's too detailed. And the specific icons that we designed were based on a range of research around responsible, transparent, and ethical AI. That's informed the specific issues which we've represented in this icon set. Now, in this work, we've utilised design fiction as world building to explore how these icons might be used in a more situated manner. Design fiction as world building is where a collection of speculative design artifacts each act as an entry point into a fictional world. They describe this fictional world and define it, and then that world and the artifacts act in a reciprocal prototyping relationship, testing and probing each other. In this case, in addition to the icons, the specific artifacts we created were signs. And these are signs to be used in public spaces or corporate environments like a university. And they're AI indemnity notices showing how AI is being used in everyday interactions. So here we see a sign on a printer. It's an AI-enabled printer. And the sign describes how AI is used for plagiarism detection and for security purposes. For example, to check that nobody is printing some kind of terror-related material through the printer. The icons show how data can be used to support those features, but it also hints at various standards and opt-out procedures which perhaps are part of the regulations about the use of AI in this world. Here the sign informs us of the computer suite informs users of the computer suite, that their creative efforts may be used by software providers. In essence, if you use creative software, you're helping the creators of that creative software offer other people a better service. By using this, you're waiving some of your intellectual property and ownership rights. Once again, there's an opt-out procedure, and it points to a world where legacy software suites have become a reality, and these will be havens free from AI-enabled software, but presumably the legacy software might also be prone to breakdown, might be out of date, and perhaps difficult to access. Always-on digital video surveillance cameras are part of everyday modern life, but when they're plugged into AIs, they can become part of hugely oppressive systems, being influenced by and sustaining systemic biases. Now, in this space, the sign shows us that to enter, the only way to be exempt from AI processing through the cameras is if you have a doctor's note, and you must register your doctor's note so that the system knows not to process you. Now, it also states that the Information Commissioner reassures us that the algorithms in use are not biased, but how do we know that is true? Now finally, poo and pee. Where there's data, there's an AI which can process it, and our excrement has huge amounts of biological data in it. And there could be upsides to this sort of processing. Imagine nationwide AI processing of such data, and plugging this into a healthcare system. You can have monitoring of diseases like diabetes and monitoring of diet, and linking this into personalised healthcare. But surely there are some downsides too. Two particular points that are highlighted in this sign are that if you want to opt out, you can, but you must then use the toilets on the 3rd floor of the library. Moreover, if you introduce any non-human DNA into the toilet, you're liable to be fined. So these signs are giving us an extra layer on top of the world where the AI icons exist, and starting to probe what it might mean if such icons were to become everyday and mundane objects. So there's an idea of the design fiction world we created, and I just want to kind of sum up and recap now. Alan Turing, here pictured near where I live in Manchester as he worked in Manchester, he's got a lot to answer for. First, he created the modern computer. He created the blueprint design for that. But then he went on to ask, can machines think? And in doing so, laid the foundations for the modern AI movement. In this work, we don't offer any concrete answers to the challenges that movement is posing to society today, but instead we present an approach for using design research in order to ask better questions. And here's a few takeaways and discussion points for the work as it stands at the moment. Now, Paul Coulton, my co-author and mentor, flattered me by calling this sentiment Lindley's law, and that's that any sufficiently in-depth conversation about AI will result in the dialogue becoming about sentient killer robots. Now, the point is that AI suffers from this terrible definitional dualism. It's simultaneously perceived as thinking, intelligent machines and killer robots, but really it's data and applied statistics. Next, there's many attempts to do ethical and responsible and human-centered, fair or unbiased AI at the moment. Here's a map of just some of them. But the issue with all of these is they don't translate to real-world circumstances very well. And that's where design research has a bigger role to play. We've begun this work, but the next step is to get this sort of provocation in front of software developers, data commissioners, policymakers and educators. AI isn't going anywhere, so let's use design to help us figure out how to live with it better. Hopefully we'll be here to take questions, but if not, we'll ask that the AI takes over. Thank you.